And my sense is that more of this is going to come out as the nations of the world accept this new norm. It isn't a rule of law, but it's a norm of a responsibility to protect, that nations must protect their citizens, whether it's as a result of civil war or external war or a natural catastrophe. The countries can't just stand by and let things happen, because the outside world will now say, we have a right to do something about this. So I think we're entering a new era with, Robert, a lot of uncharted territory, and that's what really remains for scholars and others to start to look at.
Thank you, Rita. There's a lot to think about. I'm sure there are more questions coming from the floor as well. And I think the main question is, do we need a standing force? Should it be written into Copenhagen? Perhaps should it be made law? And should it be organized? And then who will be in command, the standing force or the humanitarian organizations? And how do we sort that out? But let's take the next question. I think in the back I saw a hand first. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is David Basiuni from UNICEF. I think tsunami proved beyond any doubt that the military has a role in disaster response and, of course, crisis response. The issue is, if we take that is really now our conclusion and the way forward, what is it which is keeping civilian humanitarian actors and military actors apart when it comes to intervention and operations? I think that is the issue for us. From the humanitarian side, I think it's the question of neutrality. Humanitarians would like to not be perceived as an extension of the military. Otherwise, their mission is really neutralized. From the military side, I'm sure they also feel that humanitarians should not be in their way when they're operating. So to me, it's really the issue of the crux of it. What is it? We would like to work together, but how can we work together? In what area should we be cooperating? And also, in what way can we keep the right distance between us? So that, I think, is an issue for us to really, it's a question of cooperating, but with the right distance. The other issue is the question of acceptance of the military in any humanitarian operation. And Myanmar is really a good example where we really lost valuable time before the government could accept military, operations or at least assistance. The way around this is really to see whether it's not possible to build the national military capability in disaster management, disaster response. Because if that is done, then sometimes it may not be necessary for a military from outside to come into a country. But a country can rely on its own military capability to do that. I think a country like India and many others that have disaster management capacity can also, with the support of the military from outside, build that capacity so that what we're really speaking about, a standing capacity, can be a standing national capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to add to the same point. What we realize is that I think the military, they are really two different groups. There is the military of the affected nation, and then there are foreign militaries. What we thought was important was that the affected nation need to, in a time of peace, to work out their own structure. There's a need to have a integrated response where both the military as well as the civilian agencies of that of each of the member nation could actually work out a structure for national response. What we realize is that if that nation do have their own structure in place, it makes it a lot easier even for any foreign military or even the IOs or the UN forces to go inside there. Then they are working within a structure. And that's something that we found that was very important, very critical, and something that we are encouraging all nation states to do, that they work out an emergency structure within their own country that's integrating both their military forces as well as the civilian forces. And if that's in place, like what happened in the tsunami, where the Indonesians do have their own structure, it becomes a lot easier. All we need to do was really to work within that structure. There's no unity of command per se, but there's a lot of coordinations that needs to be done. But there is something that you could actually work, the framework that you could work within, and we thought that becomes very important.
Thank you very much. There's another question at the back there.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Stauffacher. I'm the chairman of the ICT for Peace Foundation, and our endeavors are to how can we leverage the new information technologies for peacekeeping, peace building, etc. Now, what we have seen in our work is that, and that is related to the question of coordination and cooperation among all the stakeholders that are in a mission. And I think of course your debate is very valid, but I think we are increasingly seeing multi-stakeholder engagements with military and civilians and NGOs. But the question is for us, and we have observed that information sharing in these operations is still poor, let's be frank. And it's poor within the civilian community, within the UN system, we know that, within the UN and the NGO communities, and of course also with the military, because of also sometimes good reasons, or traditions or cultures, let's say. And my question to you, and we're trying to address that issue now in cooperation with the Secretary General in New York, at least for the UN family, and then going in concentric circles to the other partners. My question to you, and the General spoke about interoperability, how could we address this issue best? I think there are efforts on the way, but maybe you have some answers. Thank you.
Who would like to respond in the panel?
Daniel, after tsunami, this was one of the issues or challenges that were brought up. How do you ensure cooperation and coordination among the militaries as well as between the military and the civilian forces? So that was something discussed, and ultimately what we realized was that in the end the good old handphone is the way to go, because the military do have their own communication system, but they are always secured in a way. So it's very difficult for the civilians to go inside. So ultimately the handphone, if it's working in the disaster area, is the main one to go. And now we have also worked out with OCHA. OCHA now has their own website. What we found during the tsunami was that first, we couldn't get enough information about what's happening in all the affected areas. And secondly, once we're inside there, when we had information, we do not know where to put them to share with the rest. So OCHA now comes up with a website, and they have also made assessment in peacetime of likely areas that may be vulnerable. So OCHA website through the internet will be the way to go, and hopefully connections will be true during the disaster. And I'll say that will definitely be the way to go, something that is in the World Wide Web.
Thank you very much. We have got another question right in front here.